Hello, I am going to be showing you how to draw a easy pumpkin today. This is really simple and really fun thing to do. It's one of I call it go-to drawing in the fall when I'm not sure what do I want to draw. I'm going to turn my paper the long way today. I'm also going to zoom in here so you can see better. And I again suggest drawing with pencil first. But so you can see better, let's let that get into focus here. Come on. See if we can get it into focus. All right. I'll turn off the light. You're going to draw a long oval in the middle of the page. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Pumpkins are not perfect. If you look at them, oh, we're still trying to get that focused in. Here we go. Okay. Then to the right, you're going to draw another curved form. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. Then to the left, another curved. And you're going to keep going back and forth just like that and till you get the rounded shape that you want for a pumpkin. Again, mine is not perfect. I'm looking up at a monitor, which is right up there, and I'm talking to draw to make sure you guys can see it. So go through, go back and forth. I usually do two on each side. And then the next thing we need on a pumpkin is a stem. There's a couple different ways of drawing the stem. Sometimes I do a 3D effect. Today I'm going to just keep it real simple and just draw it right on top there. Again, no right or wrong way to draw that pumpkin. And then if you've been at the garden at school here, or if you've seen them out in the field, been to the pumpkin fields, they've got the vines that run. And again, simple as how I'm keeping this. So I'm drawing the vines, and they're not perfectly even. Vines are not perfectly even on the pumpkins in the field, so they get fat and they get skinny. So and they curve and they twist. So I'm gonna go through. I'm taking those on there, and I'm looking at that, and I'm feeling pretty good about how that's turning out there. Then on those vines, there are some leaves. Depending on your mood, you can have lots of leaves, you can have a few leaves, and they can be big, they can be small. And going through again, practicing with it. There's days where I'd add more details, but again, the tutorial here is keep it simple, so I'm not putting too much in depth with the details on there. The next thing I'm going to go through is I'm going to go through and color. With the coloring, I'm using crayons. I'm going to start with a light color first, because I'm going to be layering my crayons. And I want you to see, I'm just going back and forth here, back and forth. And again, I'm looking up at the monitor and back and forth like this. Then I'm going to go over here, again, not coloring right to the line. Taking in, coloring in here, and taking it. I'm going to say the sun is shining or the light shining on it from this side. So I'm really pulling this over this way. And I've decided I'm going to pull this over this way. In contrast, I'll end up having this be less over here. This is going to be skinny and it stops. So again, I'm thinking about where my light's coming in. So I'm imagining my light shining down right here. All right. With that, then I'm grabbing my next light color. I'm going to be doing some green. So my light, I imagine this stem will be darker on the other side. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to do light on top, on the top. And again, considering where my light source is coming in, I'm thinking it's coming in from there. I'm going to keep it light right here. That leaf, I would imagine, would be getting more light on it versus this leaf probably would not get so much. It'd probably be kind of buried here. So it's going to get less versus these will get more. Back up to the stem. I want that contrast when I get the other color in there. And notice it looks like I'm really just kind of scribbling along here with it right now. I'm going to fine tune it when I get my other colors in. So I get my light colors in there, just kind of scribbled on there within the lines and looking at it. I'm looking up the screen here again to see what you're seeing. I really want it to stand out for your drawing. All right. So then I take my light colors. Next, I'm going to go through, I'm going for the gold on the pumpkin, or the orange, the gold. So orange on the pumpkin. I am going to color in and I want to make sure I get everywhere that I did not get that yellow. So this is a fine art of practice with coloring. So I'm watching where my yellow is and stopping my crayon. I'm not coloring right over it. Not coloring right over it. And then I went that direction. Now I'm going this direction to make sure I fill in all the white where I did not get the yellow. Going to be the same thing here. I'm starting this direction. Notice I'm going two directions when I color. Then I'm going to come down here because, again, the shadows is not going to be this perfect straight line and the light reflecting on it. You're going to be able to see where it's at. Fill it in here like such. Come down here. This is on the bottom. Again, thinking about my lights, I'm like, oh yeah, this would be really dark. So I'm coloring that in really dark. Going back to coloring just like this right in here. Really hard to see unless I look up at the screen without the light for shining on this. It's important when you do artwork to have nice lighting. I always have a lamp. So I end up turning this back on. It bleaches it out for you. That's why I end up looking at the screen. I want you to be able to see how to do this. And I've done this a few times. So coloring the opposite direction here, going through again. And if you go over the yellow, like, oh, whoops, I go over the yellow like that, it is not a big deal. It is not. The pumpkin is really orange underneath. This middle section, I'm going back through and I'm looking at my light and I'm like, oh, you know what? I kind of want to go over the yellow in a few spots. So this takes practice going through. There's times where I'll color with two different shades of orange. I'll do a lighter orange and do no yellow, and then I'll do a darker orange. So have fun with it. Layering crayons is one of those things I did not learn until adulthood, and it was like, wow, I wish somebody would have showed me. I've been showing kids for the few years I've been teaching, ha 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 ha, and they're always usually the great artists are fascinated with it. I shouldn't say they're always. There's some kids that don't care. They're going to just scribble in. They're like, I don't care. Boom, going through. But those of you who want to grow as artists, this is a great thing to know. Notice that I just didn't be done. I'm still going back through and I'm layering my textures, and I want it to be dark on the lower part because, again, I'm thinking about where my light's coming from up above. I'm thinking more over this way. So doing that, putting that crayon off to the side here because I don't want to mix up my oranges. Next, I'm going to do my green on my vines, my green on my vines. I'm just going to go through, color in, and I'm doing light color green on my vines. Real light in here and going through, and again, filling in all those white spots. This leaf, I just realized I didn't get any of the light green on. That's okay. I'm just going to roll with it, color it in. This vine, color it in. And I was doing light for the green here because I was going to color the bottom green, but I'm still thinking you don't go out and find pumpkins growing in the grass unless they've grown beyond the garden. So I'm still thinking as I'm coloring, what color do I want to use? Do I want to use the green again and color really dark? And I'm leaning towards not. So I'm going back through and I'm really darkening these vines because they are dark and light. They really contrast if you look at any sort of squashes like a pumpkin. All right. So like such. Then I'm like, oops, I'm doing the kid thing. I'm done. I am not done. Always, 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 we need a background. So I'm just going to take my pencil or my marker, and then I'm in, and I'm going to fill in here, and I've got this line right here of going through. So I've got my horizon. Going to take my blue crayon in my horizon and kind of color that blue. And I'm just going right on the side here, and I've colored my pumpkin dark enough to, if you notice, I'm just going right up to the pumpkin, and the crayon's stopping, so I'm able to color that background. And I just like doing this. Go back and forth that side of the crayon, and I'm slightly turning it. If you're watching, I slightly turn it as I go along here, and it is not showing up very bright on the computer again. So I go through and I'm really exaggerating because I want you guys to see this. And I'm going to flip on the light real quick here, and it is not showing up for you very well. It is pretty dark. There we go. Zoom it forward so you can see that. I'm getting that in there, and I'm filling in all these white spots and a little closer to the ground. I imagine it'd be darker, getting up to the sky. This is a fall day, so it could be pretty gloomy out or dark. So I got the blue in there. Then my ground, I've decided that I'm going to go with the brown again. Been doing a lot of browns with these fall colors, and I decided I want this brown to be light because the sun's out. Dirt's really not going to stand out, but I do want to contrast it, and I don't want to leave white in there. So I'm just coloring right along, and I'll hold this up to the camera again in a moment here so you can see. there is going to be a shadow below here, the pumpkin. I'm coloring pretty dark, as you can see around the pumpkin. Not even perfect, but casting that shadow down. And back to being light again. And you can, I want you to see this before I color it. See where my orange went over? Nice thing when you're layering with crayon, I can cover that up just like such. You can't even tell. The blue right here has done the same thing. You can see the blue barely. I'm covering it up. That's the nice thing about crayon. It's very forgiving and you can cover up. That is the true reason why a teacher should want you to use crayon when you're doing art. It's a very forgiving. You learn how to control your hands, how to use it, and then going on. Colored pencil and that effect also. It get more fine and you're able to layer, and again, more forgiving. Markers, when you get markers, markers is there and it's there to stay. And so that's why I am really against markers, and I'll take that. And I've got students who just want to scribble. It's, oh, I'm going to be done with this. So they'll scribble their artwork. Again, I'm doing dark below here for shadows as I'm talking to you, and really darkening the shadow around the pumpkin. But I have students that just scribble, and I'll be like, no, you're not ready for markers. I let them use them now and then, but really fine tuning your craft. So there we go. Every time I look up there, you'll notice that I'm just not done. I go and grab, I've got the orange that I used, and I'm thinking, oh gosh, I've got this. So I just grabbed a different shade of orange, and I'm taking it and just coloring right over where I did, looking at those white spots. And again, over the yellow is fine, looking for those white spots. They're really standing out on the camera. And when I look up there, I'm like, wow. And I'm like, huh. So when you get back in the building, this will be another artwork you'll want to come and see in person, and you can see how it looks better. And don't be discouraged. That makes me think when you post your pictures, sometimes you post a picture of something and it doesn't look as well. I am constantly sharing with my friends, oh, this is something I drew. And I'm like, ugh, picture looks awful. So there is the pumpkin. I hope that you enjoyed doing this drawing. Look forward to seeing you sharing your pictures with your teachers.